a doctor's office. You can choose to work in a hospital, an outpatient center. You can choose to work for a specialist. You can choose to go to a place that doesn't even draw blood if you don't want to draw blood. There are so many different options for you. And also with the X-ray portion, you are learning X-ray skills to become a basic X-ray machine operator. And then you will take a test to certify those skills. And then that makes you more valuable, because when you go into the work field and say there's a job at, I see these all the time, there's jobs at urgent cares or outpatient centers, and they want an MA that can take X-rays. Well, now they got to pay you more because you're going to do two different jobs. So it really does make you more valuable. But I also teach the X-ray classes because I am an X-ray tech. So I was telling Tate earlier, I am an X-ray tech and I've been one for 20 years. That's my primary background. I have also taken the medical assisting exam, so I know what's on that. So I can help you guys prepare for that as well. And I'm also the program chair here. So if you have any questions, no matter what class you're in, you can come to me and we can get that straightened out. So I can get you tutoring. I can help you out with whatever you need. Okay, so just don't be afraid to contact me or ask me questions. So for this class, you have labs and you have your daily activities. So I did post a walkthrough of the campus for everybody. So hopefully some of you got to watch that, just so that I kind of explained Canvas a little bit. I'm going to go into more detail on this today. Okay. But the first thing I want to do is I do want to what I was going to do. I was receiving telephone. Sorry, Miss Lewis, I muted you because the TV was a little bit loud. All right, so today what I'm going to do is I am going to show you some basic things when it comes to vitals. So one of your responsibilities as a medical assistant, when you're working in a doctor's office, urgent care, no matter where in those office type settings, is you are going to be responsible for getting your patient. You are going to walk your patient back and you're going to get them ready for that exam for the day. So a couple of your responsibilities is double IDing your patient. You're going to make sure that you have the correct chart and the information in front of you. Almost all of you, when you work in the field, you are going to work on electronic medical records. There's very few places that have paper records still, or those paper charts that you open up and they have all the papers in them. Some places do, but honestly, you're going to be working on electronic records where you're going to be walking around with either a little laptop or an iPad. So once you move further in this program, you're going to learn how those electronic medical records work. But that's one of your responsibilities, is to make sure that you have that record open, you have your patient ID'd, and you know what they're there for that day. You're going to do vitals and measurements. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry, guys. Of course, a fire alarm would go off right now.
Not a plan.
Right? Why does this happen during my Zoom? Sorry about that. So another one of your responsibilities is to take your vitals. And some of you may have learned how to do basic vitals being an STNA or being a home healthcare aide. So you might have learned how to take a blood pressure, how to check a patient's pulse, how to check for breathing, things like that. You may even weigh your patients. So you may know how to do those basic skills, but we are going to go over them again in this class. So when you take your patient back from the waiting room, you're going to weigh them and you're going to get their height. So that's the first thing you're doing kind of on your way to the office or to that exam room. So you're going to go to the scale, you're going to weigh your patient. Honestly, most scales in the field are digital scales, and those digital scales have an option to weigh in pounds or to weigh in kilograms. So that option is there because the doctor may want that weight in kilograms. There's a lot of doctors that do go by the metric system still. So they want things in kilograms, or they want a temperature in Celsius and not Fahrenheit. But what's good is that you have digital machines that change it for you. When you get further in the program, you're going to have a class that teaches you how to do that. Okay, we're not going to do that in this class because it's not in the curriculum for this class, but you're going to have a special class that you're all going to take where you're going to learn how to do those types of measurements in the metric system. So I'm not going to introduce that now because it'll confuse you just a little bit too much this early. But just know that you will have digital scales and you will have digital thermometers that will give you that reading. So you're going to take your height and weight. You're going to walk your patient to the interview room or to the exam room. You may see it written both ways when you're reading your chapters in your book. But the exam room is where you're going to be private with the patient and you're going to finish your vitals. So you're going to get a temperature, you're going to get a pulse rate, you're going to get a blood pressure, and you're going to get a patient history. We call it a chief complaint and history. So a chief complaint is, why is the patient there? What brought them in that office that day? When you guys come back to the lab physically, you guys are going to do a full patient exam with each other. You're going to role play it and you're going to start from the beginning and you're going to fill out a history and chief complaint form and record your vitals. So we're kind of working up to that. So you're going to ask your patient what brought them into the office. Patients don't come to the office for a social visit. You don't want to go see your doctor just to say hi. You go because something's wrong. You either feel sick or you're injured, or you may just need medication refill, or you may just need a referral to another doctor. It depends, but the patient is there for a reason, and you guys are going to write down that reason. So you're going to write down that reason. You're going to get their pulse. You're going to get their blood pressure. You're going to get their height and weight. And then you're going to get their temperature. And then whatever they're there for, you're going to explain that to the doctor, and he will give you further instructions. Sometimes you may have to get a urine sample from the patient. Sometimes you may have to get another basic test done. It depends on what that patient's there for and what that doctor wants you to do. So for your vitals, in your Canvas, I did upload a blood pressure tutorial. It is under your recordings in your Canvas, and I can double show you that again today once I go back in there, because I'm going to open up your Canvas and share my screen and go through a couple things. But that blood pressure tutorial goes from start to finish. So it starts with me selecting the correct cuff for the patient, going through the steps of a blood pressure, and then completing your blood pressure. So when you guys come to the school to do blood pressure, you are going to practice on each other. I do suggest, if you don't have it already, to go and get a blood pressure cuff and a stethoscope. They have them on Amazon. You can get them both together for like $20 some. I suggest to get a stethoscope. I don't know if you can see this good, but it's got these two tubes here, okay? And then it has a bigger diaphragm or head on the stethoscope. This one is the best kind to get because you can hear really good with this one. This smaller diaphragm area here, this is called the diaphragm or the head of the stethoscope. This smaller one is for infants. So if you're working in a peds office, you would just switch it to this side, and that's how you would listen to an infant. The bigger one is for adults. But when it has these two tubes here like this, you tend to hear it clearer. If you get a single tube and there's just this front part here and it's kind of flatter, it's a little bit smaller. I don't have one here to show you as an example, but it's hard to hear on that one. I find that these ones are the best, and you can find these anywhere. I know Drug Mart, I think, has them too. So, oh, somebody chatted with me. Well, you can get a stethoscope, but it's not the best quality. So that's why I say to get one of these, because the stethoscopes we give you are the ones with the single tube and it's flatter, and They work, but they're not the best quality to hear from. So yeah, I suggest you get your own. Plus you're going to need to get your own for when you're working in the field anyway, because you're going to need to bring your own to work. So I would suggest get your own. But this is what your stethoscope looks like. Okay. Getting to your vitals, we're going to start with height and weight. The scale that I'm going to show you is a manual, basic, old scale. And there are a lot of places that still have these scales. When I worked at the hospital, I worked at Parma Hospital, and I was there from like 98, 99 until about 2009, I think. I used to have to weigh patients before they got into our x-ray table for different procedures, because we couldn't have them go past a certain weight limit, and sometimes we had to give them certain medications according to their weight. We had this scale. I mean, and that was in like 2000s. So there are a lot of places that still do have these types of scales. You will need to know how to use this type of scale, especially if you're going on extern and they have that type of scale there. So I'm hoping that you can see this. I'm using this new video camera thing here, and somebody shout out and let me know that you can see this clear enough. If you can't, let me know. Anyone?
I can see.
Okay, good.
Oh, I can see. I didn't press on mute. My bad.
That's okay. That's okay. I just want to make sure. It's hard for me to because I have to turn around and look at my laptop. So I'm like, I just want to make sure that they can see. So first thing you're going to do is when you come to this scale, you're going to make sure it's zeroed out. You want to make sure that this top one is on 0 and the bottom one is on 0. Reason being is you're looking for it to be calibrated correctly. These are old school and they need to be calibrated. You will not have to do that. Honestly, you will not have to do that. We have people who come in and they service our equipment. So you won't have to be fixing anything. But a good way to know that it's not calibrated is if this is not floating. So this you see here is floating on 0. If it was stuck down like that, then it's gonna not be calibrated correctly. It's gonna weigh someone too heavy. If it's up like this, it's gonna weigh someone too light. So you wanna make sure that it's floating in the middle. Okay, so we have it at 0. Your patient is going to step up on the scale. What I do is I have them take their shoes off, and I have them take like a jacket off, put their purse down. Clothes, sometimes we'll take a pound off if the patient has like a full like sweatshirt, sweatpants on. If it's summertime and they're in shorts and a tank top, that really doesn't add very much weight. But if it's like wintertime and they got some heavy clothes on, I'll take off a pound or 2. I'll just subtract a pound or 2 because of the clothes. But you want your patient to step up. So I'm going to do my weight, and hopefully I can do it and hold this at the same time. So I'm going to take this top one here, and I'm going to move it down to the end. The reason I'm moving this down to the end, and I'll show you in a second, it's going to help me find my weight better. Instead of going from 0 and up, I'm going backwards. So you start at 0, you make sure that it's calibrated. And then before your patient steps up, you can put that all the way to the end. So my patient is going to step up on the scale, and you guys can still see, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take this big one here, and I'm going to move it to the right until it drops. So it didn't drop at 100, but it dropped at 150. So I'm going to leave it there because it dropped. Now I'm going to take this little one and I'm going to move it backwards until my scale floats in the middle. Okay, so my scale is floating. The bottom number says 150 and the top one is closer to 16. So I'm going to add 16 and 150. So my weight would be 166. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It
All right.
does.
Good. So that's the one thing that you're going to do when you come into lab to do your labs. You're going to do a weight and you're also going to do a height. Now, I'm going to tell you that most places, actually every place that I've ever worked at, the height was on the wall and you just pulled the top part down, the plastic part down, and you put it on top of their head. And they just stood up against the wall and you pulled it down. Honestly, most places don't even take your height. They just ask you what your height is, especially if you're a reoccurring patient. So if you're a patient that comes to that office a lot, I will not remeasure them unless they're older, because when you're older, like 65 plus, your body can shrink because of bone diseases. So sometimes I would remeasure older patients if I knew that they were diagnosed with something like osteoporosis or they had low calcium levels, because that tends to shrink your bones and it'll take height down. So I like to remeasure older patients because you want to see if they shrunk or not, because that will add to what their overall assessment is. So this scale has a different way to measure. So I'm going to try to get it close enough so that you can see. There is, it's kind of hard to see, but there is an arrow here and it says read. When you're measuring your patient, you're going to bring this all the way up and you're going to put it on the top of their head. Okay. So I know that I'm 5'7", so I'm just going to leave it here and show you guys how I got to 5'7". So I'm looking at the read, and hopefully you guys can all see. And I'm going to go up to where the feet are. So I see 5 feet right here. Okay, so I'm going to count 5 feet. On the right-hand side, these are inches. On the left-hand side, these are centimeters. So I'm going to look at the inches and I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So where it says read is where the 7 is. So I am 5'7". That's how you would read this type of scale. If the doctor asked, well, how many centimeters are they? He may, it's 170 centimeters, because that is closest to the read line. So if your patient was in between the 6 and the 7, then you would put 5'6.5", because it's right in the middle of the 6 and the 7. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yes.
Okay. So you will also take the height. Somebody's walking on the ceiling. That was kind of weird. Okay, sorry. I just heard a bang above my head and I heard footsteps. So someone's up on the roof. All right, so I'm gonna bring this down. That is how we use this scale. So any questions about the scale before I move on?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, why does it go backwards? Like you see how the 5 is above, then you go count down.
Yes.
Why is it like that instead of like instead of counting up to 5'7", you have to go down to 5'7"?
It just makes it easier to see. So like you mean going up?
Yeah,
Like
you see
up.
how it's 5 feet instead of counting like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Because we have to follow where this arrow is. We always have to read where the arrow is.
So if someone is 4'7", then what?
If someone is 4'7", it's going to be down here. So you always bring this up to where your patient is. So like, I don't know if you can see me or not, but I'm bringing this up to where I'm reading, like it's on top of my head. And then when I step down, I'm going to see where that ends up. And so I always want to find the feet that are closest to this read. You're always going to go by this arrow read here. So
Okay, I got
always
it.
look for that. Yeah, I always look for the feet, but you have to count down because if you count up, you're not getting the measurement. This is pulled up to the height. So you have to count down to find out how tall this is. So if somebody was 4'7", this would only be at the top of their head. And then we would look where the feet was and we see that there's 4 feet and we count down to where the read
The
is,
half
and
mark,
it'll be
the
on
arrow
7.
is. Yeah. Okay.
Does that kind of make more sense?
Yeah, I got it. Now I was just
Okay.
wondering why you count down instead of up.
Right. Yeah. Again, this one is different than the ones you'll have in the field. Those sometimes come from the wall and you do kind of come down from the wall, but this one's a little different. So, all right. So I'm going to pause real quick and get roll call real quick. I want to write down and make sure everyone is on here. So I have Tay here. Yes.
Yep.
Shayla is here.
Yes.
Is it Chantanette? Is that how you say it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
You said it correct.
Awesome. And then let me move over and see who else I got. I have Dejanay.
Yes.
I have Tatiana.
Yes.
I have Laura. And Helen.
Yes.
And did I miss anyone?
I'm here, Laura.
Laura, yes, I got you down. All right. Awesome. Okay, I will move on. All right, next thing I'm going to show you is how to take a pulse on your patient. When you are working in the office, you are going to take a pulse on your patient. Now, honestly, you may use something called a pulse ox, which I'm going to show you right after this. I just have to go find it in the back. So that's those little things that they stick on your finger. Most of the doctor's offices, they just use that. They're not going to feel for your pulse. Now, a doctor may want you to get a manual reading of the pulse because the patient may have a history of either an irregular heartbeat. They may have a history of having panic attacks or anxiety attacks or high stress levels. So they want you to feel that pulse because it feels differently if someone is experiencing stress, if they're experiencing anxiety, if they're on pain medication, that pulse can feel and be different. And if the patient has a heart condition, like it could be a heart murmur, it could be an irregular heartbeat, they could have a fast or slow heartbeat. So there's a lot of times where I've had to physically take the pulse because the doctor wanted me to feel it and record it. So when you're taking a pulse, and hopefully you can see me, so make sure if I don't show you correctly or something, or if you can't see me, let me know. So you're looking at your thumb side, okay? So this is my thumb. I'm gonna move down to my wrist, and you guys can do this on yourselves at home. I'm gonna take 2 fingers. I never wanna use my thumb because my thumb gives off a pulse. So you never wanna feel someone's pulse with your thumb because you're gonna feel your own. You have an actual, it's weird, but your pulse kind of radiates in your thumb. So you're going to take 2 fingers and you're going to squeeze right in this little groove here. So mine, I have to kind of put my fingers in this little groove and I can feel my pulse. Let me know if you can feel yours or if you can't feel it.
I can.
Okay. What you're feeling for is you're feeling for a regular thump, 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 thump. Okay. If you feel it and you start to count it and you feel it skip, like there's a pause in between, there's a lot of times where a patient may have like 3 beats, it pauses, and then it starts up again. You automatically want to record that. You want to let the doctor know. If it's very hard to feel, there's a different way to listen to your heart or to listen to your, or to feel your pulse. But when you're taking a pulse, you are going to count this pulse for either 30 seconds and multiply it by 2, or you can count it for a full minute. Sometimes you don't have a full minute to sit here and hold someone's wrist and count it. So I've always done 30 seconds and I've doubled it. So I just watch a clock. I hate wearing things on my wrists. So I hated wearing a watch. So I would always keep a watch in my pocket and I'd pull it out. Or if you have your Apple Watch, a lot of people have Apple Watches now, you can set your Apple Watch for 30 seconds and you can count that. You're just not going to be allowed to use your phone. So when you're working in the field or when you're on extern and they ask you to get someone's pulse, you cannot take out your phone and set it for 30 seconds. You're going to have to physically look at a clock or look at a watch. So I just would buy a cheap like $4 watch or something and I keep it in my pocket and I would just pull it out when I needed it. But you're going to take your 2 fingers, you're going to feel for the pulse. What I do suggest is that a patient sits still with their feet flat. It's going to give you a more accurate reading. If they're standing, your heart tends to work a little bit more. If they want to lay down while they do it, that's fine. But sitting or laying is the best. Like here, me standing, my pulse might be a little bit faster than it normally would be if I'm just sitting and relaxing. So if I had a patient that came to the office and they were running late and they ran in and they just drank a whole cup of coffee and they're like, okay, sorry I was running late. I ran from the parking lot. They just had a bunch of coffee. I would wait until their heart rate kind of slowed down a little bit because they're all excited from running and drinking that caffeine. Also, smoking cigarettes can affect your pulse rate. It'll increase it if you just suck down a cigarette. So that's another thing too with patients is I would ask them, especially if they're newer ones and I've never had them before, I ask them if they drink a lot of caffeine and I ask them if they're a smoker and I ask them if they ever have any history of like stress or anxiety, things like that. That way I know I might have to anticipate a higher pulse rate because of their lifestyle or what they are experiencing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so you're going to count it. We're all going to count it for 30 seconds. And then you're going to tell me what you get. And we can do that right now. When you're done, you can let me know what you get.
Oh my gosh.
And while you're
so we hold it and for 30 seconds, we just count the pulse, how many beats?
Yep, you just count the beats. So every time you feel it pulse under your fingers, you just count those.
Okay.
Yep, every time you feel that.
I got 62. I'm multiplied about 2.
Perfect. And that is normal. I'm going to be giving you guys some notes in a second that you can write down or take a picture of my screen if you want. I'm going to run and see if I can find that pulse ox real quick. I think it's over here. Hang on, give me two seconds. All right, what'd everyone else get?
I got 84 beats per minute.
Perfect. So anywhere between 60 and 100 is normal. And I'm going to write this in here too. I'm going to type up a couple notes in a second, but anywhere between 60 and 100 is normal.
Oh, dang. Mine was 44. I don't know if I keep messing up or something, but is that bad?
44 is a little low, yes.
At first, I was like, it's going a little fast. And then, I don't know. I just like, let me pay attention. And then, yeah.
Yeah. And you counted it for 30 seconds. Did you multiply it by 2? Did you double it?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Oh, so you would be 88.
Okay.
And that's perfectly normal.
Okay, because, yeah, let me put that down. You got to double it.
Yes. All right, so I found my pulse ox. This is a digital one. Okay, this is going to be like the ones that you guys use. You guys are going to have digital ones like this. Now, when you use this, you want to put it on either the pointer finger or the middle finger. And you're just going to keep it on your patient's finger. You want to have their hand rest. So I'm going to kind of shine this down. So this is me. The top number is the percent of oxygen that I have in my blood. So it's called your oxygen saturation or your oxygen percentage. Mine is 98%, which is good. You want it to be 95% or higher. My pulse is 93, which is a little bit high, but I'm standing and I'm talking and I'm moving. If I was sitting still, it would be a little bit lower, but I'm holding this and talking and moving around, so it's up, which is fine. What I would do is I would always, I would put this on the patient. There we go. I would put this on the patient and I would let them sit there for about a minute with it on, and then I would check it. So I'd make sure that they're sitting still.
So what's a good pulse?
A good pulse is anywhere between 60 and 100. So I'm still under 100. Oh, see, it dropped a lot. Anywhere between 60 and 100 is perfectly normal. Mine usually runs in like the high 60s, low 70s. So that's how you would use this pulse ox. And again, it's going to be like this in the field. You're going to use ones that are like this. They're digital, they're portable. Couple things when it comes to a pulse ox. If the patient has false nails, the nails will prevent the pulse ox from reading. So if they have fake nails, if they have acrylics, if they have jewels on their nails, if they have the gel nail polish, that will prevent the sensor from reading. So you will not be able to use the finger. You can use a toe. Weird, I know, but you can. You can actually put this on like their second or their third toe, and you'll get a pulse from that. You'll get an oxygen level from that. You can also use an earlobe, but I don't know about you guys, but my earlobe is really tiny. There's no way in heck this thing is fitting on there. So I wouldn't use the earlobe for me. I would use a toe. But that's something to think about, especially when your patient comes in with long nails on. You will not be able to get a pulse reading on here, okay? But this is another thing that you guys are going to use when you come to the lab. All right, if you are unable to feel a radial pulse, there is another way to get a pulse on your patient. And what you would do is you would need your stethoscope, and you're going to get something called an apical pulse. An apical pulse is a pulse in the chest, and it's right on like the left side of your chest, kind of right under your breast tissue. If your patient is larger with very large breast tissue, it will be hard to hear that pulse because you're basically listening to the heartbeat. That's what you're doing. This one I use for elderly patients and sometimes for younger, like infants, because it's easier to hear the heart rate and to count a pulse that way because of their bodies. So the way that you do this is that you would take your stethoscope And you want to make sure that your stethoscope is working. So you just want to tap it to make sure that you can hear it. Okay, when you put the stethoscope in your ears, you want to make sure that these earpieces here are pointing forward, so this way. If they're pointing backwards, they're not going into your ear canal and you're not going to hear. So these have to be pointing forward. You want to make sure that your stethoscope is working. And I have a shirt on underneath here, so I'm just going to lift up my shirt. So you want to take your stethoscope and you want to place it on the left side, right underneath the breast tissue, a little bit to the left of the center of your chest. And you want to listen for a heartbeat. Sometimes if you put your finger here, you can feel the heartbeat first and then put your stethoscope right over it. So I know some of you probably don't have a stethoscope, or most of you don't. That's fine. Okay, we have a bunch of them here that you can use. We have a ton of them here that we sterilize and we let the students share. So you'll be able to use them here. That is how you're going to get a pulse on a patient you cannot feel in the wrist. This is called your radial pulse because it's in the wrist, and this bone that's right here where your thumb is, there's a bone right here. It's called your radius. So that's why this is called your radial pulse, because it's an artery that runs right up here. So this artery kind of comes up like this. You're feeling a pulse on an artery. So all your arteries, your major arteries that you can feel in your body, are where you feel a pulse. You have a carotid artery in your neck, and you don't have to memorize these yet. You'll learn them again. But you have a carotid artery in your neck. You have a femoral artery in your
I have a
groin.
question.
Yeah.
Do I tell you guys or maintenance, my hot water downstairs in the sink, I can barely wash my dishes. It's really low.
I'm gonna mute you, Shayla. There we go. All right, so that's what you're doing, is you're measuring a pulse point on an artery. So this is your artery in your wrist. You can feel a pulse in your neck, your carotid artery, and your heart is your heart. Your heart beats. It's a muscle that beats. So that's how you can hear your heartbeat, by just placing it right over your heart. You have an artery in your groin called your femoral artery. You have an artery behind your knee, and there's different places you can feel these pulse points. But for adults, we use the wrist or the chest. Okay, so any questions about taking a radial pulse, using a pulse ox, or listening to the heart? Any questions on that?
Nope, none for me.
Okay, awesome. All right. I do want you guys to make sure you watch that blood pressure tutorial that I loaded into your Canvas. And I'm going to show you where to go. So I'm going to share my screen in a minute, because I'm going to show you how to watch that video. And then I'm going to show you a couple other things in your Canvas. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. And this is your Canvas. So I just opened up your home page. And your announcements are at the top. So whenever you click on an announcement, it'll open it up, and then you can read what I put in there. So I always put in extra notes. I always put in extra videos, something that I know you're going to need help for. So I did put some notes about blood pressure. Okay. I explained that carot cough sounds are the sounds that you hear when you're taking a blood pressure. And I added a video with those sounds so that you know what they sound like. Your systolic number is the top number, or the first thump that you hear. The diastolic number is the bottom number. And again, when you guys practice this in person, or if you have a stethoscope and a blood pressure cuff at home, you can practice on your family members. And then I have a chart of blood pressure. So this chart tells you what a normal blood pressure reading would be, what an elevated blood pressure reading would be, high blood pressure stage 1 and 2, and a crisis. These are important numbers. I would write this down somewhere so that you have it moving forward in the program, because I know you're going to get tested on these numbers. Okay, so that's why I put that in there. Your video that shows the blood pressure is here. So if you click on under this live lab Zoom, you click Zoom blood pressure tutorial, and there's a video. This video is about 6 minutes.
Hello, everybody. This is.
So I don't know if anyone watched this video or not, but I am going to play it really quick just so that I can talk about it. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I recorded this video for this class so that I have it for this class every time I teach this class so that you guys can see it. This is what you're going to be practicing either at home on your family or when you come into the lab. So when you come into the lab, you are going to be able to do blood pressure on each other. We just always like practice like good hygiene, washing our hands, wearing gloves, that kind of thing. Okay, so I'm going to start this video.
For blood pressure tutorial. So I know I had shown you guys your blood pressure in lab. A few of you have asked for a step-by-step demonstration on doing the blood pressure. So I'm going to go through your steps from start to finish. I'm going to start with placing the cup. I'm going to go through getting your baseline and then completing the actual blood pressure. All right. So first thing you want to do is you want to take your cup and you want to make sure that this arrow is pointing down at the antecubital space. So this arrow is going to point down to the bend of the arm, and you want to put it about 2 fingers above because you need a spot to put your stethoscope. So I'm going to place it above this space. I have about 2 or 3 fingers here. And you want to make sure, one, that your cuff is on snug enough so that it's not slipping down the arm. And 2, that it's the right size for your patient. There are different sizes of blood pressure cuffs. This is just a normal adult size. We have pediatric sizes, and we also have large or extra large cuffs depending on your patient size. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my baseline. So you guys learned that you need to feel the radial pulse.
So I know that you guys have not been into the lab yet. What you're going to do is when you're getting a baseline, you are getting a starting point to your blood pressure. A starting point is how high I'm going to pump up my cuff before I start listening for the blood pressure. Okay. And everybody gets a baseline if you are a brand new patient. If I work in an urgent care or if I work in an emergency situation or I've never had this person before, I am going to follow these steps because I need to know a starting point. I don't want to just automatically pump up my blood pressure cuff to 160 or 180 because they may have a blood pressure of like 220 over 90. I completely missed it because I didn't do my baseline. So if you have a patient who is a reoccurring patient, a patient who always comes to the office, you know who they are, you know their history, you know what their blood pressure usually runs, then you don't have to do this baseline step. But the reason you're learning this is because you are going to be tested on this in the lab. We do a skills check, and you guys are going to have several skills checks throughout the year here. And when we do our skills check, one of them is blood pressure, because you need to make sure that you are mastering a blood pressure before you move on to externship, because that's something you will do when you're in the when you're going to the clinicals. So we do have skills checks, and that's what we're testing you on. So we want to make sure you understand this. So this is the baseline step first, and then we're going to take an actual blood pressure.
Pulse, and you're going to pump up your sphygmomanometer or your blood pressure cuff until you feel that radial pulse stop. And that is going to be your baseline. So we need a starting point. We can't just pump up the blood pressure cuff to any number. We have to start. So I'm going to be feeling her radial pulse. I'm going to make sure that my bulb is tight so that there's no air slipping out. You want to use your 2 fingers. So like I said in class, you don't ever use your thumb because you'll pick up your own pulse. You use your 2 fingers. So I'm going to slowly pump up, and I'm feeling for this to stop. Okay, so right now, I don't feel her radial pulse. So I need to remember the number that is on my sphygmomanometer, which is up here. I need to remember that number, and I'm going to add 30 to it. And then I'm going to get my starting point. So for her, the number was right before 120. So I'm just going to use 120, and I'm going to add 30 to that. So my starting point is 150. So again, I put the cuff on, I feel for the radial pulse, I slowly pump until I feel that radial pulse stop. I remember the number it stopped at, and I add 30. I have not gotten a blood pressure reading yet. This is just the beginning, okay? So I'm gonna try to aim up and
Why do you just ask his mother what he does?
She don't know. She asked me.
all right, so
Okay, so when you guys
Gina, I'm
get
just
to the lab,
I'm trying to get to the bottom of all this Tommy stuff.
Well, whatever you do tonight, don't start asking Tommy questions, please.
Oh, no, don't worry. Tommy's going to tell me everything I want to know.
okay. Sorry, I just muted somebody because of their TV or their whoever they're talking to. Okay. So when you guys come to the lab, you are going to, I'm going to go through these steps again. So if you're coming on the 20th, remember, just let me know what day or what time works for you for the 20th. I will go through these steps again. I don't have a person in here with me to do a blood pressure, so it's kind of hard to show you on our Zoom today because I can't do it on myself and I don't have a live person in here. So that's why I wanted to kind of go through the video to show you, but you will get step-by-step instructions face-to-face in the lab so that you learn it. I don't expect you all to completely know how to do a blood pressure when you leave this class. I don't expect you to be experts. If you've done it before, then that's awesome. You already have some practice, okay? I don't expect you to be a professional at doing your blood pressure when you leave this class because it's just a beginning. You're just learning. You have the next couple of months to perfect that, okay? And you will be doing it in every class that you have a lab in. So any type of class that you have a lab from now on, you will do a blood pressure in that lab because that's one of the main things that you will do as a medical assistant every day. And you have to be spot on your blood pressure because you are the one who's giving the doctor the reading. If you are off on your blood pressure, sometimes the doctor will double check you. But if that doctor is busy, he doesn't have time to go in and redo a blood pressure on all your patients. He's going to take your word for it. And he's going to make his diagnosis based on what you told him. So if you misread your blood pressure, if you didn't perform that correctly and give him the wrong number, he may just misdiagnose them with high blood pressure, put them on medication they don't need to be on, and it can cause a stroke. You don't want that to happen. So you do have a lot of responsibility when it comes to your blood pressure. So I'm going to start this over again, or start this again. There's not that much left.
I have the camera pointing at the sphygmomanometer. What what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that baseline that I found as my starting point. I'm going to pump up to 150, and you're going to see the needle's going to go down. So you have to release air at a slow, steady rate in order to properly capture that top number, which is your systolic, and then you keep listening to those sounds, and then it's going to stop. So the top number is the very first sound you hear. You might notice the needle jump a touch, and then you're going to keep listening. You're going to keep hearing the sounds. They may get a little bit stronger, and then they're finally going to stop. When it stops altogether, that is your bottom number or your diastolic number. So I'm going to do my blood pressure, and you can watch the needle. So I'm pumping up to 150. And I'm going to slowly let my air out. So you're going to watch that needle come down. And I heard my first sound at 130. It's still going. And it has stopped. So it stopped about 3 little lines below the 80. That would be 74. So you have to remember that the larger or the longer line is a 10, so it goes by 10s, and the smaller lines are 2s. So you're always going to have even manual blood pressure because that is how your machine is configured. That's how you have to do it.
Okay, so get this back on. Okay, can you guys see me? Okay. So I have this blood pressure cuff over here, or this sphygmomanometer over here. I don't know if there's a glare or anything on this, but if you can see it, this is a portable one that's on wheels, and you guys will be able to see this when you come to the lab. These little lines here are 2s. So there is never an odd number when it comes to a manual blood pressure. When you're using a blood pressure machine, which I'm going to tell you now, every urgent care has one. And that's the way that they do their blood pressure is with the machine. You may not have to do a manual blood pressure if you work at an urgent care. Doctors' offices, most doctors' offices prefer a manual. I honestly prefer a manual because machines tend to break. Sometimes they don't read it correctly. I like to hear it myself. I like to be in control of it. So if I know I'm doing it right and I can hear it and control it, then I know the reading's right. So I just like to hear it. I'm old school too, just because that's how I learned back in the day. So these go by 2s. The big lines are 10, so that's 20. This big line is 30, 40, 50, 60, and so on. Okay, so when you're pumping this up, you are going to practice letting the air out. You want to let the air out slow. You don't want to go too fast where it goes from here to here in like a second. You don't want that because you're going to miss your readings. You're listening for the first thump and you're listening for it to stop. That video that I loaded in your announcements will really help because it will it'll play for you what the sounds are and how it sounds. So it's kind of hard when you're not physically doing it and you're not here listening yourself. When you guys come in, we're going to practice blood pressure a few times, and I have a double stethoscope that I will listen with you. That way we both hear the same thing, and hopefully that helps as well. But I do encourage you, I did post another video on blood pressure, so watch the video, practice at home if you have one, if you have a stethoscope and a blood pressure cuff. If you don't, that's okay. We'll do it when you come back, okay? But it is something that can take practice. I didn't get good at it until I did it for like maybe 3 or 4 months. Like it took me a while. At first I was like, I don't know what the heck I'm listening to. And sometimes I was just like, all right, I would like, I wouldn't even know what to say. Like sometimes I'd feel like I had to make up a number because I couldn't really hear what it was. And I had to keep practicing. And once I kept practicing, I started to get used to, okay, so that's what that sound is. Okay, so that's that. Sometimes people are harder to hear, especially if they have a heart condition. Elderly patients can be hard to hear. If a patient is morbidly obese, like 400 or 500 pounds, it's very hard to do a blood pressure on them because you have to do the forearm. So you will have to put a cuff on their forearm and listen above or listen at the wrist. And it's kind of hard to do it that way. So I have a difficult time with that. So you just have to, you know, be prepared and kind of practice. But don't be intimidated by blood pressure. Blood pressure does take time and it takes practice. So I know it's hard to try to learn it on a Zoom call, which is impossible because you have to physically do it to learn it, but at least you saw it and you can kind of prepare or try to practice. So I know you guys are going to have a lot of questions when you come in here, and that's perfectly fine. We'll get you where you need to be. Okay. Any questions at this moment for me right now?
Yeah, when is our first day of lab? Like when do we first start coming in the building?
Well, I have makeup labs on May 20th, which is Thursday. And my makeup lab is 11 a.m. to noon or 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. So if you want to choose one of those times for a makeup lab, then tell me what time you want to come. I did send an email out to everybody.
Always come to you. Tell me has no
Okay.
So I'll resend an email out.
I think I seen it.
Okay.
If you can resend it too, I seen it. I'll let you know.
Yeah. Just respond to me. That way I can see it so I can write it down where everyone wants to go. We will resume our lab. Let's see. Let me pull up the calendar.
And I'll be in there to talk details, okay?
We will resume in-person labs on May 25th. So May 25th,
perfect.
we will be here at the school. It's Tuesday from 11 a.m. until about 2-ish. So I might get done around 1:30. It depends. Because I'm going to have you guys say that again.
Will we be at the Broadway campus?
Yes, you're at the campus that says the salon. It's the one with the awning. The address is, I'll type it in chat for you.
I know where it is.
You know where it is?
I'll stay in Bedford. Yeah.
Okay.
It's right across the street from Wings.
Oh, no, it's the one down.
Oh, see.
That one closed.
Okay.
Yes,
really?
That one closed. So it's actually 2 doors down from that.
Okay.
Yeah, it has a sign that says the salon. The address is 14801 Broadway. But yeah, that was our old building, but they closed it. So now we're all here, but that's okay.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to reshare my screen again. And I'm going to bring up, I want to close out of this.
You can never get an odd number because everything goes by 2.
Okay, I'm going to go back home. All right, so what I want to do is I want to go over one more thing with you guys. And this is called simulations. Sorry, my freaking camera's going all over the place. All right. So you guys have something called simulations, this mod, okay? Simulations are virtual labs, and these virtual labs are a grade. So you have to physically go in and complete these virtual labs. I'm going to show you it on here, and I'm also going to upload an instructional video on the simulations. They don't show up until week 2, but I'm going to show you 2 different places to find them. Okay, the first place that you can find them is if you're on your home screen, you want to scroll down through the weeks. So your week 1, when you open up your week 1, this is what you have for week 1. You have to complete your knowledge probe. Okay, if it's not checked off here, that means you didn't do it. Everything that has this circle has to be completed before you can move on to the next week. So we're not blocking anything, but we want you to move from week to week. So in order to move on to week 2, you have to complete your week 1 first. You're kind of building on your weeks. So when you log into here, you will complete your knowledge probe and it'll check it off. And then you'll complete your syllabus quiz and it'll check it off. And then you'll move on to your activities. Yes.
Okay, so if I did all that and I move on to week 2, like, does it matter? Will it affect my attendance if I did everything for week 1 already and I don't log on for the rest of the week if I did all my work?
Yes, it will affect your attendance. You have to log in. So all I have to do is just make sure you open up Canvas, read your announcement, and then log out.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
As long as my work is done.
Yeah, the hybrid program goes by attendance as well, and it tracks how often you log into your Canvas.
I have a question.
Yes.
So on our activity, it say labs. Do we wait until we see you to do the labs?
Yes.
Okay.
So like, you mean, hang on. My things
like it
at
say
the bottom
day
of the
1,
screen,
lab
like those,
5.
Down here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I put those in.
Okay, so those
I was talking about the one that say day 1, lab 5, that we wait until we with you to do that.
Yeah. That's just showing you what it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I will put these in.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Yeah, if it says activity on it, so like activity 1.1, 1.2, those are all things that you have to complete. The labs I put in, these where it says PowerPoint or lecture, those are notes for you. So you can open those up and read them. Anything that says lab, I put in. So you don't have to do that. Every week, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up your week and I'm going to explain everything for you. So,
okay. What is activity 1.4 questions for consideration?
So this one, when you open it up,
okay.
you have 8 questions and you're going to answer these 8 questions on either a Word document or a Google document.
Okay.
So all you do is, and I'm gonna post the lecture tomorrow. You guys can join in the lecture if you want to tomorrow. It's gonna be open at 1 o'clock for anyone to join in. But I'm gonna lecture about most of the stuff tomorrow.
Okay.
So it'll help you with your answers. But I also put in here where you can find your answers. So you can use either chapters 4 and 5 in your textbook, or you can use your unit 2 in your first textbook. Your textbooks have everything in them. And any type of activity you have, you will be able to find the answer in your textbook.
What did you say you was opening up tomorrow at 1?
I have a Zoom at 1 that I'm going to do a lecture.
Oh, so we got to log in tomorrow. Oh yeah, Wednesday. I see it.
Yeah, I'm just going to do a live lecture and I'm just going to talk about a bunch of stuff.
I like what he was saying. Just one call.
I got a question too.
Evaluation was all it took to start.
About 1.5.
And I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me. At creditrepair.com.
Whoever's got the fan, can you turn it down, please? Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. So you said 1.5.
Yeah. I don't know this type of stuff. The questions, I don't know.
Well, the questions. Did you watch that a little video I posted about the Canvas?
About the what?
About the Canvas. I posted a walkthrough video. Did you happen to watch that?
No, I don't think I watched that one.
Okay. I explained this one in that one.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. So like if you go home here, I'll show you. So on your home screen, if you click Under, so this module that says Zoom live lecture recordings, if you click Zoom recordings, like it says click to view, this video explains the entire first week. So I opened up all of the assignments and I talked about them. So if you watch this, it'll help you because I kind of explained how to answer those questions.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, this is for you guys. So anything that's going on this week, I talked about in there. So make sure you watch that. Okay, so going back home, the one thing I wanted to make sure I talked about today was something called simulations. Hang on, let me grab a chair. Just because I'm like bending over my laptop. Okay. All right, so if I scroll down to my weeks, so week 1, this is everything in your week 1. Your simulations, let me see if you can open it up. They're under your laboratory competency. So you have a simulation called adult vital signs and a simulation called pediatric vital signs. These are both to be completed for a grade. So this you physically have to open up and complete. Anything that says simulation, you have to open it up and complete it. So when I click on it, and my computer is going to be slow. This screen will show up. So I give you some instructions. Anytime you open up any type of assignment or simulation, make sure you read the instructions because I'll tell you like hints or I might tell you how to do it. So this says to please complete the simulations test for a grade in Canvas. You can practice first in the learn mode before you complete the test. And I put in here, don't wait till the last minute to do these. These aren't due until May 29th. But if you wait till the last minute, they are time consuming. It could take you about 15, 20 minutes to complete just this one. So you don't want to wait and then get stuck where you have all your simulations to do and you have one day to do them. So that happens to my students all the time. So I always tell them, do not wait till the last minute, start to look at it now. Also, what if you want to do, if you do have a laptop or an iPad or some type of tablet, bring it to lab and you guys can do them together. I let my students do them together. If you're a brand new student, by the time we get back into the lab on the 25th, you might have your laptop in already. So that's something to think about. But I would bring in something to do them together. And then that way you guys get them done because I'll give you guys time to do them. But I'm going to show you real quick how to do it. So when you click on this here where it says load simulation, it's going to open it up in a new window. And this is going to automatically pop up. The very first thing you want to do, and you guys can do this at home now, is you want to watch this video. Every one that you open up, you watch that video. That video is going to tell you how to complete the simulation. It's going to show you everything you need to know. So this video is only 8 minutes. I would watch this video. When you're done watching the video, if you want to, you can read through these notes. These notes also tell you exactly what you're going to do to complete the simulations test. Okay, it's going to give you pointers on how to complete the test. So there's a lot of notes here, but these are all notes for you. This is all going to help you with your vitals. Okay, so you want to watch the video first. It's optional to read these notes. And then on the right-hand side, you see these circles here. The circles all are a different thing, a different function. You want to click on the third circle that looks like a cube. And when you hover over it, it says simulation. You're going to click on that. And it's going to bring up these 3 different modes. Okay. Test mode. Someone have a question?
I need a car wash.
I'll see you, Sam.
Okay. Anyone else have a question?
No.
Okay. I saw the hand raised. I thought someone had a question. Okay. So you see these 3 modes here. In order to get a grade in Canvas, you have to do a test, but you can practice before you do the test. So I suggest you practice in learn mode. So when you click on choose a scenario, you can choose one of these or you can do all 3. And it's going to take you step by step through the process. It's going to highlight green if you're right, and it's going to highlight red if you're wrong. And it will take you about 10, 15 minutes to get through this, but it's a practice. When you get to your test, there is no hints. There's no green and red telling you if it's right or wrong. So when you take a test, it's just going to bring up a random situation where you're going to have to do a temperature, or you may have to do a pulse, or you may have to take a blood pressure. It's on vitals. So it's going to be any one of the vitals, height and weight. You always want to practice under this learn mode first, because it will give you hints, and then you'll get used to how you have to move things. I'm going to tell you now, this cursor is very touchy. You have to be right over something in order for it to do it. So I'm just going to bring up one of the scenarios. It's taking forever. The internet's very slow here. Okay. So here's your scenario. It says a 46-year-old male presents to the clinic with recent vomiting. Assess the patient's vital signs. So you're going to click to continue. So it says you have washed your hands. Select the next step. And it's one of these 3. As you can see, when you hover over it, if it's green, it's right. If it's red, it's wrong. So this is practice, because when you take a test, it's not going to show green or red. You're going to have to know what your step is. The tests are usually exactly the same as the practice. That's another hint. But it says you've washed your hands. You want to select the correct step. So what you're going to do next is you're going to get your equipment together, like your stethoscope, your thermometer, your pulse ox, whatever you may need. Okay, you're not going to put your gloves on because you haven't touched, you're not touching a patient yet. So when you select the right thing, it moves on to the next thing. So it's just a little video of the MA getting all of her supplies ready. It goes through the very basic steps. All right, next thing what you're going to do. So it's wanting you to take a temperature next. So you're going to select the thermometer. This thermometer goes into the ear, and you guys are going to be learning about all different types of temperatures next Tuesday, but this thermometer goes into the ear. So this piece right here goes inside the ear, and it's called a tympanic thermometer. And that's in the notes at the beginning of this too. So I'm going to select my correct answer, and the MA is getting the thermometer all set and ready. And again, this is what you guys are going to be doing when you're doing your simulations. This is just practice. I haven't even gotten to the test yet. So you're going to have all these steps. And once you get to the end of this and you feel like you practiced and you're okay, you can take a test. So you're going to go through all of these steps Sometimes you may have to take something from over here and click it and drag it over to the patient. And I'll show you that. It might be in one of the next ones. So my next step is to confirm my patient's identity. So you're going to double ID your patient. You're going to ask them what their date of birth is and their full name. You want to make sure that the patient tells you. You don't want to say, oh, your name is James Smith, correct? No, because he could just say yes to anything. So you want to make sure that that patient is telling you what their name is. Next thing you do is you're going to explain your procedure. So you're going to tell your patient, I'm going to take your temperature, I'm going to get your pulse, I'm going to get your blood pressure, and you're going to go through all that. So you're going to explain your procedure.
Go. Boy. No.
Then next step, what are you going to do? You're going to position the patient sitting upright. You're not going to have to completely undress. You're not asking the patient if they want coffee. That's obviously not right. So you're going to make sure that they're sitting up and that they're comfortable. Okay, so you're going to inspect the ear and choose one for the temperature. And I'm telling you, they're going like super step by step. Like normally I would just be like, all right, take the temperature. But no, it's like you're going to pull the ear, you're going to place it in the ear. So they're going very step by step basic. Okay, so you've chosen the right ear. Select the next step. You're going to gently pull the ear up and back. You don't want to yank down on their earlobe. You're not massaging your earlobe. You're just kind of pulling the ear back so that you can get into that ear with your thermometer. You always want to tell your patient, I'm going to pull on your ear a little bit, or I'm going to place this thermometer inside of your ear. So here's an example of where you have to grab one of these tools or instruments and drag it to the spot that you need it to be in. Now your cursor is going to light up green when you have the right tool and when you're moving it into the right position. So it says select the correct instrument. I want this because this is my thermometer. So you want to click on it and you're going to drag it to where the ear is. So see it light up, it turned green. So now I'm in the right spot. When you're doing a simulation, you cannot do these on your phone because you cannot drag with a cursor on your phone. You can do it on a laptop. You can do it on a desktop computer, like at the library. You can do it on an iPad because you can use your finger as the mouse. You can't do it on your cell phone. For some reason, it just does not work. I've had students try to do it on their cell phone and they could not get through it. So if you don't have anything but a cell phone, make sure you try to find somewhere that has a computer that you can do this, or when your laptop comes in. So you're just going through all these steps, and I'm going to exit. And who's got a question?
Okay,
Me.
so question. Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Well, I guess
You
I'll
raise
go.
your hand, nigga.
So I was wondering if you don't have a laptop. I know you guys see this a lot, hear this a lot. So is that affecting, like, am I gonna be behind? I'm not gonna be able to graduate on time because it took about a month and some weeks to get it. So is that affecting a lot of things, or?
Do you have your laptop now?
I just got it yesterday.
You just got it yesterday?
Yeah.
It depends. What affects your graduation is if you have to repeat a class because you failed it. That will postpone your graduation because you'll have to repeat that class. It is hard when you start school. That's why we want to make sure when our students are first starting that they have some type of device to help them. And Your phone, you can use your phone to complete some work in Canvas. You just want to go to the website and not use the Canvas app because the Canvas app is very limited. I can't even do things on the Canvas app. I tried to grade the one time, it wouldn't let me grade. So it is best, and I did put that in the walkthrough video with for the first week, to make sure that if you are using your phone, so whoever on here or whoever's that's going to watch this, if you do not have a laptop, if you do not have access to a computer, what you can do is you can come to the school and you can use our computer lab. We have a computer lab, and the hours are, we have a couple morning hours and a couple afternoon hours, and that has to be scheduled ahead of time, and it's only Monday through Thursday. We do not have any nighttime hours, but we do offer that to the students who have not gotten a device yet. So that is an option. You can schedule that with me and I can make sure that there's an opening for you, or I'd suggest going to a library. Maybe if there's anyone's laptop or computer you can borrow. Again, you can do some things on your phone, but not everything on your phone. So it is.
Yeah, because a lot of I remember I was doing a lot on my phone until it got to this one assignment and said like you had to show them how you screenshot it on the laptop, and it's, you know, you had to work on the laptop. So I had to pause because I didn't have a laptop. So, you know, I got behind a week. Then it was another week because, you know, everything else was with the computers, the assignment. So now it's like I'm 2 weeks behind, and now I got my laptop. I'm trying to catch up, but the month's over. So that right there, the beginning was for graduation. So I guess, you know, I'm gonna be having to make that up.
Yeah.
The little 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, it does kind of suck. I mean, it's hard. And I know like when you sign up for school, we're supposed to ask all the students, you know, do you have a device that you can use? Because there is a lot of online stuff that you have to type up. You know, you have to maybe do an Excel sheet one time, or you have to type up a written response to something. And yes, you can use Google Docs. I know that there's a way you can do Google Docs through your phone and upload it through your phone, because I've had students do that before, which is perfectly fine. That's fine by me if you're doing a Google Doc and you're uploading it through your phone. As long as I can open the document, great. But when it comes to like PowerPoints or flow charts or Excel sheets, there's just some things you can't do on your phone. So it does get a little bit difficult. But again, any of you who do not have a laptop right now and you're waiting for it to come in, you can use the computer lab. You just have to let me know. If you have not,
I do have a question when you're done.
Okay. If you have not picked up your laptop yet and you got a message to pick it up, I would come soon. One of these days this week, I would come and pick up your laptop, because you're going to need it, especially for your written communications class, if you have that as well. So check your email. You may have gotten, like if you've been in school for at least a month, you may have gotten an email from Hannah Williams, and she lets all the students know when their laptops come in. So if you didn't get yours yet, look for that email. All right, who had a question? I'm sorry.
That was me, Tatiana. Okay. Now, with the stimulation to attain adult vital signs, like I'm kind of familiar with it because I'm a return student. Okay. But with these, did you find this on the Canvas, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. So what you would do, let me go back to Canvas. The two places you would find it would either be your home screen, where you scroll down to the week. There's an easy way to find it too. If you go to your course calendar, I put every single assignment in your course calendar so that you know when it's due. So if you look at the entire month of May, and I think this class is over June 2nd, maybe. If you look at your calendar, you can scroll down. All of these are your due dates. So these are put on the day that they're due. So you have activities due this weekend, you have a quiz due on Sunday, and then we start week 2. You can open these up from the calendar. All you do is you click on it and you click on this big red heading up here, and it'll take you right to the assignment. So your calendar, oops, I didn't want to do that.
Wait.
Your calendar is kind of easy because it has everything there in one place for you.
Mine's don't. It's red.
What do you mean red?
It's like not letting me click nothing. Like this, like scratched off. Like
Did you complete your work already?
Yeah.
Oh, that's why. It'll cross it off when you complete it.
Oh.
Yeah. So your simulations, the thing about simulations is you can only open it on your home screen, or you can only open it in your calendar. A lot of people go to their grades and look at what they have to do, and they open their work from there. For some reason, you can't do the simulations there. It's weird. I don't know why, but that's how it is. So the simulations are under Saturday, May 29th. So you have these simulations here. You just click on it and it'll take you to the simulation, and then you load it in a different window, and then it'll bring you to your simulation. Again, your test mode is where you're getting your grade from, but you want to practice it first in learn mode. So you go from learn mode, and then when you feel like, okay, I know how to do these vitals, I should do okay, you can do a test. Now, if you fail the test, say you get a 40% or a 60%, and you're like, oh, I don't get this grade, you can redo it. You can repeat these tests as many times as you want to get the grade that you want. Okay. So that's another good thing too. You can repeat them and it'll take your highest grade. So going back to your Canvas, one more thing that I want to show you is if you click on grades, your total grade will be at the top. What everything is worth is over here. So like daily activities is 25% of your entire grade. Labs are 25% of your entire grade. Your quizzes are 30% of your entire grade. So if you fail all your quizzes, it's going to significantly lower your grade. If you do not come to lab and do any labs, it will significantly drop your grade. Your final exam is worth 20%. A lot of my students, for some reason, they skip the final. Don't skip the final, just do it. Your final will be open ahead of time for you. I'm going to open it up in week 3 so that you have some time to complete it because it is timed. But just don't skip the final. So many students are like, oh, I'm not going to do the final. And then they get a 0 and it's 20% of your grade. It will drop your grade, a whole letter grade. So do not just skip the final. But here it tells you everything that you have to do and when it's due by. So I like the grades because it has the name of it, when it's due by. If you finished it, your score will be here. If I graded it, your score will be here. If there's a dash here, you didn't do it yet. If it says missing, you missed the due date, but you can still do it. When you do it, if after it's missing or missed the due date, it'll say late here, but you'll still get credit for it. Okay. If you guys say that again.
On the calendar, it say the stimulation, it say adult vital signs and the kid vital signs. Do we have to do both?
Yes.
Okay.
You have to do both. Yes. So that's why I wanted you guys to see them now so that you have a couple weeks to start doing them.
I have another question.
Yes.
So on the quiz for this week, and it says it's time. So when I go on there, I can't get off of it?
Let me bring it up.
Like it say the quiz is timed.
This quiz actually does not have a time limit.
Oh, okay.
But you can only do it once. So if you click on it and click out of it, you can't go back in.
Okay.
So it's not going to time you out. The only one that has a time limit is the final. exam. All final exams have time limits. And it's because we're trying to get you used to taking a longer test that has a time limit, because your CCMA, your certification test, will be timed. So, but yeah, this quiz, let me bring it up a different way. I'm sorry. So I'm going to go to week 1. So there's no time limit. It is 23 questions. It is due on May 16th. I will post a review game to help you with the quiz. So I post something called Kahoots. I don't know if anyone has ever done Kahoot before, but this is probably going to post tomorrow. The Kahoot is a way to review for your tests, and it also reviews the week. So it's a game, and you just click on the link and it takes you right to the game, and you can play it as many times as you want, and it'll help you answer the questions for your quiz. Plus, remember, your quizzes are open book. You can open up your textbook and look up every answer if you want. So the quizzes are open book. A lot of what I talk about in my lectures that I post are what you need to know for your quizzes and your assignments. So I kind of give you hints on things. I do lectures on important information that I know that you're going to need to know for this class, not only this class, but also for your certification exam. And all of your video recordings, let me go back to your Canvas. Again, all of your video recordings are going to be under this Zoom recordings. Click to view. Your lab recording from today, I'm going to post under here. So I'm keeping lab and lectures separate just so that it's easier to follow. But again, like your Zoom recordings, there's always going to be a title and a date, and then the recording will be underneath it. Any other questions?
Okay, so yeah, I've been trying to figure out everything with the textbook and stuff, you know. Okay, so I will start off in the beginning of this, like, let me see, I'm about to go to the home page.
You know what, if you
Okay,
want,
to
you
your
can share
class.
your screen.
You said what?
I said, if you want to, you can share your screen.
Okay.
What you're doing.
Let me see. Okay, yeah, let me see. How do I do that?
It should be at the bottom or the side. I made it available for you to share. Should be a little thing that says share screen or has an arrow.
Okay. All right. So I'm about to share it.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll go to the home page.
Mm-hmm.
Where do I? Or is it module? How do I get to the classes again? Hold on 1 second. No. Let's see. Where's my courses? Okay, right here. All right, so I'll go here to the class, and then I'll go to the first one, say click here, do that. And I go down on everything. I read stuff and everything, and then it'll get to the first week or whatever. How do I get back to, like, where is the book at? Because if it's open book, I'm not about to be stressing myself if I don't have to, because
right. That's what I tell my students all the time. They stress out and they fail their quizzes. I'm like, look it up.
Yes, and I'm like, I'm just not used to the system yet.
So course textbook
right here.
Course textbook is right there. Yep.
Okay.
There's two
so
of
go
them.
there.
Yeah.
Go there, make another tab, and then when I go down, what's this? Okay, so right here on Knowledge Probe, I will open that, and what is that it? Is that with the textbook, or is that just like something that says 3 points? So
Knowledge Probe is just a survey. You're not getting graded on it. It's a survey that you have to complete so that I can see how I need to help you in this class.
Okay, so I will use my textbook once I jump to the medical terminology part. No. We're down.
You can use your
textbook. You got to go down some more.
Go up.
Yeah.
So
okay, so week 1 quiz.
Yes, week 1 quiz.
Okay.
You can use your textbook for your assignments to your activities.
Okay.
The activity, I think activity 1.1 and 1.2 and 1.3, they got different tabs, and it's going to tell you everything in them.
Okay.
It's
All right.
under the textbook. Like
Yeah.
you just gotta go.
Okay.
It's in the same section as the textbook, but it's a prefixes and suffixes and all that.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, thank you for helping. Okay, you can stop sharing. Okay. Any other questions? Because I'm just about done with you guys today.
Oh, that's about it.
Nope, I got everything I need to know.
I don't have any questions. I'm kind of familiar with everything.
Awesome. That's great. Well, thank you guys so much for
Have a nice day.
It was great to meet some of you guys. Some of you already knew. But if you have anything you need, just let me know, and I will post this recording in your in your live recordings.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Ooh.